We have been having the same basic debate about educating American students for as long as I can remember. And that basic debate has a couple of questions that we go over and over and over. One question we ask is, who should own the school? Some people say, well, the school should be owned by nonprofits or for-profits and should compete with the public schools. Some people say, no, 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 no. Competition among those owners is bad for students, it will ruin the public schools, etc. And we go over and over and over again. And then every couple of years we have a debate about what kind of testing should evaluate the success or failure of schools. So we've had Goals 2000, and we've had No Child Left Behind, and we've had all of these discussions for a very, very long time. I think these are discussions that have taken place in good faith, but I think they put education in our country in a rut. I think they look beyond the basic question, which is, how do students best learn? And how can we create environments in which we maximize learning by students? This, I think, is the great potential of distance learning. Not only can it achieve for students in a very meaningful and important way, but I think it also moves us beyond some of these old arthritic debates that have consumed so much of our energy, time, and money over the last number of years. What you do every day is to focus on answering what I think the main question ought to be. How do students learn best, and how can we facilitate that learning? As we approach the rewriting of the No Child Left Behind law, which will in all likelihood occur in 2011, there are a number of projects that I'd like to work with you on so that we could begin to move our law in the direction of this goal of maximizing student opportunity while breaking down some of the barriers that I know that you face. But I want to go over 3 or 4 areas that I think we should pursue as we reauthorize No Child Left Behind, and then invite you to contribute to the dialogue with your own ideas as to how we can best do this. First of all, I think that we have to encourage states to move toward what I would call open enrollment policies. I think that we cannot require, but need to encourage states to recognize what you do, if you meet quality criteria, which you do, as a valid place where students can be educated in those states. I think that the barriers to students enrolling in these programs are counterproductive and they need to be removed. There's a number of ways to do that. Under No Child Left Behind, when a school fails to make adequate yearly progress, the school's management is first confronted with a menu of options that it must pursue. Now, there's no particular option it must choose, but it must choose among a menu of options to improve the school. I think that quality virtual learning should be on every menu of every school in that situation. I think we should move toward a day where every school that fails to make AYP must at least consider the introduction of the learning platforms and learning tools that you have created to help students who are in that situation and schools in that situation move up the ladder. Secondly, I think that we should consider the expansion of the Pell Grant program so that high-achieving students who are eligible for a Pell Grant can use that Pell Grant while still in high school to participate in virtual learning experiences that supplement their curriculum. The student who's a terrific young math student, who goes to a school that doesn't have the higher levels of mathematics, that doesn't have the AP calculus or doesn't have that kind of opportunity, there is no reason why she should not be able to attend one of your programs and work with one of your platforms, and geography should not be the excuse, nor should bureaucracy be the excuse that she cannot do that. For the student who can afford this, the parents very often do this on their own. They seek you out and they enroll their son or daughter in this program, and that's a great thing. But for the students who cannot afford it, I think the use of the Pell Grant in this way is a very creative way to help the student grow, to provide the revenue stream that's necessary, and keep that student on the path we want him or her on. Thirdly, I think that we should create at least a few national demonstration projects of online curricula that are complete curricula, so that we can create a set of best practices, a set of guidelines, not that people must follow, but that they may follow, in giving examples of how the student's entire experience can be enriched and pursued in this way. Fourth, I think that in the supplemental services area, understand that when a school fails to meet adequate yearly progress, students are given supplemental services. There are tutors brought in after school, or there are summer programs, or there are preschool programs introduced. I think that supplemental services dollars should be used much more frequently for virtual learning, so that students can go beyond the limitations of the district that they attend and enrich themselves with the opportunities that we provide. And then finally, and probably more amorphously, but I think most importantly, we need to get beyond the barriers, as I said at the outset, that limit so many students from attending your schools and participating in your learning platforms because of attendance rules and other criteria which I don't think serve students very well. Attendance should never be used as a proxy for quality. Where you sit should not be a measurement of how well you learn. Now, we need to develop quality criteria. You have. You've done a very fine job of doing this. We need to develop quality criteria which make sure that there are ways of ensuring and monitoring student achievement. But the use of physical location as a proxy for quality just doesn't make any sense.
In 2 days, you're going to hear quite loudly a cry for help. And it's going to come in the form of a film produced by Davis Guggenheim, director of Inconvenient Truth. The film is called Waiting for Superman. This film, a portrait will be painted of a crisis about the state of American schools. Guggenheim will reveal another very inconvenient truth, that given the sorry state of so many schools, a child's chance of getting an education and truly having access to the promise of the American dream has about the same chance that you have in winning the lottery. We are absolutely, unequivocally failing our children. Point being, you're dealing with a generation, I'm dealing with a generation that will not be contented or will not see value in things that don't allow both that interactivity and that personal customization that makes the experience their own. And this tool does that. Now, if you say we're in an urgent race to get my kids broadband, and you're saying I need $300 billion of private investment to get there, and you're going to tell me we're now going to launch on this multi-decade, this almost decade-long legal crusade, all so that a delegated agency can restore its power, I think that's a horrible choice. It's a great song in the musical Rent called 525,600 minutes. How do you measure your life? You know, and it's all these different things. And I said to myself, I'm curious, how would I measure my tenure in technology? You know, when I went to the FCC, almost nobody I knew had a cell phone. When I left, nobody I knew wouldn't have one. When I went to the FCC, a cell phone was this big. When I left, it was this big. When I went to the FCC, Wi-Fi technology was considered junk spectrum that you only ran baby monitors and microwave ovens in, and now it's the most powerful connective tissue in the Internet space. People, innovators, took junk and turned it into gold really fast. It's just like businesses are driven by quarterly results. Washington is driven by moment-to-moment political capitalism. When I look at my boys, I say there's a couple things I better get across. One, I think you're in a world of lifelong learning. If part of your learning and part of your development, how you approach learning, is temporal, which I think in many ways our high schools are. I'm a 9th grader. The end of 9th grade comes, yeah, I'm not a 9th grader anymore, now I'm 10. It's all this kind of like systematic march to being done. I couldn't imagine anything more wrong in the modern world. I hope my children are 90 they still think they have classes